She was driving home on a road she'd taken 1,000 times before. Then her headlights caught something that made her blood run cold. A child, no more than 7 years old, standing barefoot in the middle of the highway at 2 in the morning. She slammed on the brakes. But when she got out of the car to help, the child whispered 4 words that would haunt her forever: "Please don't take me back." Main story begins. Sarah Chen had lived in rural Pennsylvania her whole life. She knew these back roads the way most people know their own hallway at night: every curve, every pothole, every place where deer like to cross. She'd driven Route 39 hundreds of times, usually during the day when she was heading to her nursing job at the county hospital, but sometimes late at night when her shift ran long or when she was coming back from visiting her sister 2 towns over. That particular night in October, she was driving home around 2 in the morning after helping her sister move furniture. The road was empty, the kind of empty that only exists in the middle of nowhere when everyone sensible is asleep. Her radio was playing oldies, the heater was on low, and she was thinking about the leftover pasta waiting in her fridge. Then her headlights swept across something that shouldn't have been there. At first, Sarah thought it was a deer. Her foot moved instinctively toward the brake. But as the shape became clearer, her heart stopped. It was a child. A little girl, maybe 6 or 7 years old, standing perfectly still in the center of the road. She was wearing a thin pink nightgown, the kind with cartoon characters on it. No shoes. No jacket. Just standing there in the freezing October air, staring directly into Sarah's headlights. Sarah's car screeched to a stop about 20 feet away. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely get her seatbelt off. She threw the car into park, left the headlights on, and jumped out. "Honey, are you okay?" Sarah called out, her voice cracking with adrenaline and fear. The little girl didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stood there with her arms at her sides, her long brown hair moving slightly in the wind. Sarah approached slowly, the way you might approach a wounded animal. As she got closer, she could see the child's lips were turning blue from the cold. Her feet were filthy, covered in dirt and what looked like dried blood. "Sweetie, where are you from? Where are your parents?" Sarah asked, now just a few feet away. The girl's eyes finally focused on Sarah's face. She was shivering, her whole body trembling. And then, in a voice so quiet Sarah almost didn't hear it, the child said, "Please don't take me back." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Don't take her back where? Back to what? Sarah immediately pulled off her coat and wrapped it around the little girl's shoulders. "You're safe now, okay? I'm not going to hurt you. My name is Sarah. What's your name?" The child clutched the coat tighter but didn't answer. Her eyes kept darting to the tree line on the side of the road, as if she expected something to emerge from the darkness. Sarah's nursing instincts kicked in. The girl was in shock, possibly hypothermic. She needed immediate help. "Come on, honey. Let's get you in the car where it's warm, okay?" Sarah said gently. The girl resisted at first, her small body going rigid. But when Sarah took her hand, so small and ice-cold it made Sarah want to cry, the child finally allowed herself to be led to the passenger seat. Sarah cranked the heat all the way up and grabbed a bottle of water from her back seat. "Can you tell me where you live? Or your parents' names?" Sarah tried again. The girl took a small sip of water, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the bottle. "I don't know," she whispered. "You don't know where you live?" The girl shook her head. "I was asleep. Then I was running. I don't know how I got here." Sarah's stomach twisted. Running from what? From who? She needed to call the police, but her phone had died an hour ago and she'd left her charger at her sister's place. The nearest house was at least 5 miles back. She made a decision. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to drive you to the police station in town. They'll help us figure out where you belong. Is that okay?" The girl looked terrified, but she nodded. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The drive to the Millbrook police station took 15 minutes, and during that time, Sarah tried to get the girl to talk. She asked about school, about favorite foods, about anything that might help identify her. The child answered in fragments, bits and pieces that didn't quite add up. She said her name might be Lily, but she wasn't sure. She said she remembered a house with blue shutters. She said there was a man who got angry a lot. When Sarah asked if the man was her father, the girl went completely silent and started rocking back and forth in her seat. Sarah didn't push it. At the station, Officer Mike Harrison was working the night desk, half asleep with a cup of coffee and a crossword puzzle. When Sarah walked in with the little girl wrapped in her coat, he was on his feet in seconds. Found her on Route 39, standing in the middle of the road, Sarah explained quickly. She's freezing, possibly in shock. Says she doesn't know how she got there. Mike's face went pale. He picked up his radio immediately. This is Harrison. I need all available units and I need to run a check on recent missing children reports. Female, approximately 6 to 7 years old, brown hair, last seen wearing a pink nightgown. While they waited, Mike brought the girl a blanket and a hot chocolate. A female officer named Janet Rodriguez came in and sat with the child, speaking to her in soft, reassuring tones. Sarah gave her statement, describing exactly where she'd found the girl, what time it was, what the child had said. She told me not to take her back, Sarah repeated. Back where, I don't know. But she was terrified of something. 20 minutes later, Mike's radio crackled to life. A missing child report had just come in from a property about 8 miles from where Sarah had found the girl. A farmer named Doug Peters had called to report that his granddaughter had disappeared from his house sometime during the night. Her bedroom window was open. She matched the description perfectly. Relief flooded through Sarah. They'd found her family. The girl would be okay. But Officer Rodriguez's expression was troubled. She pulled Mike aside, and Sarah could hear them whispering urgently. Something about the property. Something about previous calls. Mike made a phone call, his voice low and serious. Then he turned to Sarah. We need you to stay here for a bit longer. Detective Walsh is on his way. Sarah's relief began to curdle into unease. Why? You found her family, right? Shouldn't we be taking her home? Mike exchanged a glance with Rodriguez. It's complicated. Just trust me on this. Over the next hour, Sarah watched as the small police station filled with people. A detective arrived, then a social worker, then 2 more officers. They took the little girl into a separate room, and Sarah could hear the gentle murmur of voices through the door. Finally, Detective Walsh came out to talk to Sarah. He was a tired-looking man in his 50s with kind eyes. Miss Chen, I need to explain something to you, and I need you to understand that you potentially saved this child's life tonight. Sarah's mouth went dry. What do you mean? Walsh sat down across from her. The property where this girl was staying, we've been watching it for months. Doug Peters, the man who reported her missing, he's her grandfather. But Child Protective Services has been investigating the home for suspected abuse. We've had 3 calls from neighbors about screaming, about a child being locked outside in the cold, about suspicious injuries. Every time we showed up, the girl would say she was fine, that she just fell or had an accident. Classic signs of coaching. Sarah felt sick. So when she said, "Don't take me back," she meant it, Walsh finished quietly. She climbed out of her bedroom window tonight and ran. An 8-mile journey for a 7-year-old child, barefoot, in the freezing cold. That's how desperate she was to get away. The detective explained that they were taking the girl into emergency protective custody. Her mother was currently incarcerated on drug charges, and her father was unknown. She'd been placed with her grandfather 6 months earlier. What should have been a safe haven had apparently become another nightmare. Social services would conduct a full investigation. The girl would be placed in a foster home where she'd be safe while they sorted everything out. Sarah sat there, processing it all. If she'd been 5 minutes later on that road, if she'd been going faster and hadn't been able to stop in time, if the girl had frozen to death out there in the dark, nobody would have known until morning. Maybe not even then. "Can I see her before I go?" Sarah asked. Walsh nodded and brought her back to the room where the girl was sitting with the social worker, wrapped in blankets, sipping hot chocolate. When the child saw Sarah, her face lit up just a little. Sarah knelt down beside her chair. "Hey there. I just wanted to say goodbye and make sure you're okay." The girl looked at her with those huge, haunted eyes. "Are they going to make me go back?" "No, honey. You're safe now. I promise." For the first time that night, the girl smiled. It was small and fragile, but it was real. "Thank you for stopping," she whispered. Sarah felt tears burning in her eyes. "You're very brave, you know that? What you did tonight, running to get help, that took incredible courage." The social worker, a woman named Beth, put a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. "We're going to take good care of her. She's going to be okay." Sarah wanted to believe that. She needed to believe that. As she drove home that night, the eastern sky just starting to lighten with the first hints of dawn, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about how random it all was. If she'd taken a different road, if she'd left her sister's house 10 minutes earlier or later, if she'd been looking at her radio instead of the road at that exact moment, she would have missed her. That little girl would still be out there, or worse. 6 months later, Sarah got a letter forwarded through the police department. It was from Beth, the social worker. She wrote that the investigation had confirmed the abuse, and the grandfather was facing criminal charges. The little girl, whose real name turned out to be Hannah, had been placed with a foster family in a different county. She was in therapy, doing well in school, and slowly learning to trust again. Beth had shown Hannah a photo of Sarah, and Hannah had drawn a picture for her. It was enclosed in the envelope, a crayon drawing of 2 stick figures holding hands under a smiling sun. At the bottom, in a child's careful handwriting, "Thank you for being my angel." Sarah put that drawing on her refrigerator, where it stayed for years. She still drives Route 39, still works those late-night shifts at the hospital. But now, every time she takes that stretch of road, she drives a little slower. Pays a little more attention. Because she learned something that October night. Sometimes the most important thing you'll ever do happens in the most ordinary moment. A regular drive home. A regular road. And a split-second decision to actually stop when something seems wrong. Most people go their whole lives without being in the right place at the right time to make a difference. Sarah was. And because of that, a little girl got a second chance at childhood, at safety, at learning what it means to be loved without fear. Think about that. How many times have you driven past something strange and told yourself it wasn't your business? How many times have you seen something that didn't feel right but convinced yourself you were overreacting? Sarah could have done that. She could have told herself the girl would be fine, that someone else would stop, that it wasn't her responsibility. But she didn't. She stopped. She helped. She saved a life. What would you have done in Sarah's position? If you saw a child standing alone on a dark road in the middle of the night, would you stop? Would you get involved? It's easy to say yes right now, sitting safely wherever you are. But in that moment, alone on an empty road, with all the fear and uncertainty and risk that comes with helping a stranger, would you really? These are the questions we should ask ourselves. Because every single one of us might be one random moment away from being someone's only chance. Hannah got lucky that night. She got Sarah, a nurse with training and compassion, someone who saw a child in danger and didn't hesitate. Not every child is that fortunate. Right now, as you're watching this, there are kids out there in situations they can't escape. Kids who are hoping someone, anyone, will notice that something is wrong. Will you be the person who notices? Will you be the one who stops?